fuerte sismo de magnitud 6,2 ha sacudido la región central de Italia en la madrugada de este miércoles. El Servicio Geológico de Estados Unidos afirma que el epicentro se ubica a 10 kilómetros de profundidad. El terremoto ha causado graves daños materiales en la ciudad de Amatrice, según los medios locales. Advierten además que debajo de los escombros estarían atrapadas varias personas.
weather modification, all the development of the idea of geoengineering to save us from climate change, etc. Again, there's a lot of documentation that you've dug up on this over the years, but just fortuitously, in the last few days, I noticed that John Brennan, the director of the CIA, was giving a speech at the Council on Foreign Relations, of all places, where he himself was talking about geoengineering. So let's just listen to a little bit of that clip, and perhaps we can use this as a way to broach that subject of, would they really do something like this?
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do.
John Brennan talking about altering weather patterns and spraying things in the atmosphere in order to save us from ourselves, apparently. Would they do something like this?
Would they do it? I mean, the evidence shows that, yeah, they would, and they have, and they are. As far as the CIA goes, they appear to be deeply involved in the New Manhattan Project. There are some early documents. In 1965, the Office of the Executive Branch of the federal government under LBJ released a document called Restoring the Quality of Our Environment that states both the theory of man-made global warming and what John Brennan was just talking about, the SRM, solar radiation management, spraying of particles, otherwise commonly known as geoengineering. The CIA also released a document which appears to be the fount of this idea that global warming can cause the end of humanity. And ever since then, this has been used as a justification for spraying us, because they're saying, hey, we don't want global warming to happen. The earliest mention of the theory of man-made global warming that I've been able to find is in 1958, titled Weather as a Weapon. This project of weather modification largely came out of the original Manhattan Project. First of all, it is a physics problem. And the people who put together the first atomic bombs were physicists. They developed also a lot of technology that went into this new Manhattan Project.
What is new about the new Manhattan Project aspect of this?
Well, the differences between the original cloud seeding industry, which goes on to this day, and the new Manhattan Project is mostly the fact that that electromagnetic energy is used to disperse the particles that come out of the airplane, and also conventional weather modification is done on a regional basis, and the new Manhattan Project is done on a global basis. There's a certain Air Force base in Alaska, Clear Air Force Base, which is in the interior, I believe, near Fairbanks. And it's relatively close to the HAARP facility. If you take a globe and look at where Alaska is, it's almost equidistant from the contiguous 48 states and then to the most industrialized areas of Asia. You've been seeing chemtrails over there in Japan, and then to Europe. It's very strategically located.
All of this talk about geoengineering that has become more and more common in congressional committees, and prominent scientists speaking out about this, David Keith and others, are going around pimping this idea everywhere they go. And yet, there is remarkably little research or even apparently interest in the medical or health effects, or at least potential effects, of stratospheric aerosol injection. And you pointed to a journal article that I hadn't seen from earlier this year, assessing the direct occupational and public health impacts of solar radiation management with stratospheric aerosols. if you were to spray aluminum oxide aerosols or barium titanate or any of these other chemicals on people, it might be a really bad thing, as they end up concluding, although we don't know because no one's researching it.
Actually, the health impacts and the biological impacts have been studied extensively, but these studies have just not been made public. The biological impacts are what we've seen are grave. You know, this is mass murder. You know, and I make a case for that as far as Alzheimer's goes. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people who have died. These are extra deaths that have just suddenly popped up, you know, and we're supposed to go for a run or, donate money to this or that and find a cure when what we really should be looking at is the cause. And so it's just layer upon layer of cover-up.
Our government is broke. As a result, they're going to take very desperate and even radical measures that might seem unconstitutional in order to save our financial system. I believe the government could soon enact what I call financial martial law. Most people only know about ordinary martial law, which usually happens after a natural disaster or some kind of riot. And as most people know, when martial law goes into effect, all the conventional rules of liberty go out the window. Well, financial martial law is a bit different, but it's a heck of a lot scarier. They can literally come in and force you to invest in certain things, because if nobody wants government bonds anymore, and that's going to come, they'll say, well, if you have a retirement fund, you will buy government bonds. Martial law means force. When financial martial law goes into effect, all the financial rules you know about will go out the window. Everything you've earned, saved, invested in, it's all fair game for the U.S. government to seize. Crisis situation, the government will put their hands on your bank account, stock market account, your retirement account, your pension, you name it. They'll change the laws on what we can do with your money, how much you can access, and where you can spend it. They might even change the money itself. The people will eventually have to wake up and find out what's going on. American history has shown us many times that when the government needs to save itself, it won't hesitate to steal your money. If you don't think this can happen right here in America, wake up. I worked in Washington for over 30 years, Jared. Believe me, I know what these people are capable of, and I know how they think. You absolutely must learn how to protect yourself, whether you've got $10,000 or $10 million in the bank. It won't matter. The government's coming for you and your money. And once the laws are in place, good luck. This is all a consequence of what the Fed has been doing over the past decade, when trillions and trillions of artificial new dollars made their way into the economy. Well, it's important for people to understand this, because this is a much bigger deal than the mortgage crisis we saw in 2008. When the currency collapses, nearly everything else will collapse with it. Stocks, bonds, commodities, you name it. The US dollar will ultimately lose its status as the world's reserve currency, and people will reject the dollar for almost any alternative. When you destroy a currency, you destroy the entire economy. We'll see a total breakdown of the stock market. Imagine 2008, Black Monday, and the crash of 29, all happening in a single morning. But what really worries me isn't necessarily a stock market crash. The real killer will be the effect of all this on our society. People won't have any clue what to do when there's a line around the block just to access an ATM, or when banks start shutting down. They won't have any idea what to do when stores stop accepting dollars as payments, or when no one's willing to make a loan anymore. But let me tell you, it's going to be a total descent into economic, social, political, and moral chaos. The evidence is all around us, and yet the average American is still totally unprepared right now. The government's not going to save you or anyone else. The government couldn't help even if they wanted to. Look at Flint, Michigan recently, the town whose water got poisoned. They brought in filtered water for the government, but nothing to help ordinary citizens. They even shut off people's sewer systems as they refused to pay for poisoned water. If you look at history, you'll see that many people will be completely blindsided and lose the bulk of their savings in a matter of weeks. Again, for most people, the only warning you're going to get is me sitting here right now talking to you. You won't hear about this on the news until it's already happened.
China had a very, very ambitious plan with that G20 meeting. The intention was to transform the G20 into an alliance of countries who would form a body for global governance to jointly take care of the issues of this earth. You may have not heard about it in the mass media, or if so, with a nasty spin. But what really happened is that Xi Jinping pronounced a plan of putting innovation into the center of the global economy. And most importantly, inviting especially developing countries and emerging countries to fully participate in the benefits of science and technology, of innovation, in order not to hold up the development of these countries. Obviously, the problems of the developed sector of the United States and Europe remain gigantic. For example, Deutsche Bank has now the same cost for CDS, for collateral derivative insurance, like Lehman Brothers had it in 2008, which means that speculators are betting on the possibility of a collapse of Deutsche Bank.
United States government central bankers, they are provoking war at this point. They are moving military assets into position. They're inching closer and closer to provoke Russia, China, North Korea. And all of this is being done on purpose. We've been following this for many years right now, and we've seen a mass amount of military assets moved into certain regions to provoke these countries. Because as this system falls apart, they need to provoke a war to cover up this entire system collapsing. And this is exactly what they're going to do. They're not going to stop. We see out in the Middle East, the situation is not going well for the United States. Yemen is a complete disaster. Libya, complete disaster. Lebanon, a complete disaster. Iraq, Syria. They don't care about the people. They don't care about anything else but the central bank, their puppet government, and keeping the dollar on the oil. And what we can see happening right now is they're losing control, they're becoming desperate, and they're just trying to save the central bank to continually conduct business. But when this falls, this is when everything comes to a screeching halt.
Staaten sind heute im Besitz von Atomwaffen: Russland, USA, Großbritannien, Frankreich, China, Israel, Indien, Pakistan und Nordkorea. Insgesamt besitzen diese Staaten rund 16.000 Atomwaffen. 93% davon gehören den USA und Russland. Davon sind 1.800 Atombomben in ständiger Höchstalarmbereitschaft. Das bedeutet, dass sie auf Knopfdruck abschussbereit sind. Die Kosten für die Modernisierung des Atomwaffenarsenals der Amerikaner über die nächsten 30 Jahre betragen übrigens 1.000 Milliarden $. Ganz schön viel Geld für Dinge, die man eigentlich nicht einsetzen will.
Bedrohen die Atomwaffen denn den Frieden in Europa oder sichern sie uns den Frieden in Europa?
Das wird offiziell gesagt, dass sie den Frieden sichern. Das ist natürlich Unfug, denn der Frieden ist auch ohnehin nicht bedroht. Nicht? Also wir brauchen keine Atomwaffen, um uns vor etwas abzusichern, was gar nicht existiert. Es wird zwar zurzeit wieder ein großer Gegner aufgebaut, namens Russland. Aber jeder vernünftige Mensch weiß natürlich, dass die Russische Föderation keinerlei Absichten hat, irgendeinen NATO-Staat anzugreifen. Nicht? Das wäre ja geradezu verrückt, nicht, wenn sie das machen würden.
Wozu dann aber?
Ja, aus amerikanischer Sicht ist es klar, wenn man von dort aus eben auch ein Drohpotenzial nach wie vor hat. Aus europäischer und deutscher Sicht muss man sagen, die Europäer sind zu schwach, um diese Stationierung zu beenden.
Bombing Syrian soldiers is one thing, but this means declaring war, not only against Syria, but also Russia, which is fighting in Syria on Assad's side. And this means that we have reached a climax. It is completely obvious that US is preparing to start a war against Russia. But how will Moscow, Putin and Kremlin react? Thus, everything at this point is very, very serious. Not as ideologists and we as globalists falling into abyss need war right now, before the American elections. War against us. Not so much for victory, but for the process itself. This is the only way for them to prolong their dominance and divert the attention of Americans and the whole world from their endless series of failures and crimes. Only war can save their situation. But what about us? We don't need war. Not now, not tomorrow, never. If Washington decides to opt for war now, then we cannot avoid it. If they will insist and repeat the September 17th situation again and again, then we will have to either accept the challenge and go to war or knowingly admit defeat. A third world war has never been so close.
The US should escalate the conflict in Syria by targeting President Assad's allies. That's the proposal put forward by a former CIA deputy director.
We need to make the Iranians pay a price in Syria. We need to make the Russians pay a price. The other thing I would do...
We make them pay the price by killing Russians?
Yes.
Michael Morell added that the killing of Russians should be done covertly, but in such a way that the Kremlin would get the message. He says he hasn't discussed the idea with Hillary Clinton, whom he's endorsed for president. Morell is also a strong critic of Clinton's opponent, Donald Trump.
You see a coordination between the American media and the government policy. We've seen it since 9/11. We've seen it in the taking down of countries, 5 countries in 7 years. When you had the Syrian operation where the Americans bombed and destroyed the Syrian forces with A-10s and F-16s, you simultaneously had operations within the United States, which people in the community and the psychological warfare and military environment have looked at as coordinated operations to delude and detract the American consciousness away from Syria into the United States. And specifically, you had a bombing in New York, you had a disruption of a Marine marathon parade, you had 60 schools in Canada evacuated, all supposedly because of domestic disturbances. Now you've got a Black Lives Matter shootings. They do this to distract Americans away from Syria, away from the Middle East. Americans don't see that because they're distracted by the media. That shows me, and many, many others, that the American media cannot be trusted. The alternative media that is rising up has much more sway on people. I don't think we have much of a free press anymore. I think we have a press that is dominated with corporate interests, with big donors, with big money, and they follow the stream. They don't have a love of truth anymore. The goal of the United States since George Bush carried under Obama has been U.S. hegemony over the world. That's the goal. The objective has been destabilization of the competitors. The strategy has been destabilizing these countries from within, and the tactic has been using the injector as human rights violations and religious persecution and playing the victim card. So there's a goal, objective, strategy, tactics that the United States has been waging against Russia diplomatically, militarily, economically, and informationally. So you see John Kerry and these other puppets starting to lie and fumble and fall all over themselves and look down at the ground and get nervous. There's a lot of horrific stuff that's causing people like me to come out and speak truth, because this isn't just about destabilizing, a region. This is about threatening all of the world and civilization. The United States has caused so much chaos and havoc, it shames me. And so does it many other politicians to say, what have we become?
Usually when they come up with something, even war, they have to have a pretext. And the pretext is pretend. How are we going to deceive the people? How are we going to scare the people? So that they're having a pretext for this, because most people think the elections are probably rigged. I certainly think they are, because no matter what happens, the same deep state controls everything. But, they got involved a little bit in foreign policy in order to, justify this, and it's always national security. But really, the greatest danger since 9/11 has been the taking away of our liberties. And they're very much involved in our personal lives, our personal privacy, overrunning state laws, the whole works. So this next step to take over elections is pretty scary as far as I'm concerned. My understanding of the rigged election is the elections don't matter. This is a ritual that we go through. And some people say, well, yeah, but you participated. But if a person is involved in the system, I think it has to be for one thing to expose what they're doing. My belief is that the control is the deep state. They may have false flags, they may do a lot of things, but no matter how an emergency comes up, they're going to make use of it. And the use of it isn't to say, hey, how are we going to protect the American people? Are they worrying when they talk about doing something about rigged elections to make sure the votes are counted? No, they're making sure that the votes aren't counted and they're irrelevant, and the government has all this power, and that they have, in a way, make it a lot easier to hack into our elections, But it is a distressing thing to think that probably this is a true statement, that no matter what you do on your vote, whether you vote or not, the deep state is in charge, and that is what we have to deal with.
Another collapse took place on 9/11 this year, New York City. The doctors have come out and said, well, no, it's not Parkinson's, it's none of the sort, it's pneumonia. What's your initial reaction to their claims?
It doesn't really fit what we see very well. My thought is that our premise that it's really related to Parkinson's disease fits what we see better than their story. She walked on her own power to wait for her ride. If you look carefully, she is leaning against the bollard and she's resting there, and when they try to move her into the vehicle, her right leg won't bend. She was in a freeze at that moment. She can't voluntarily do anything during that freeze, and they try to move her into the vehicle before she's ready. Her leg buckles, she turns into a limp rag doll, and then they have to basically carry her into the vehicle. I think she has Parkinson's, but until I see her medical records, which it looks like I'm not going to get the chance to do, I can't be sure. All I can say is it fits.
look at this, it's all fake. Look in the phone what they're capturing. You don't see the flags in the background. Here comes Hillary Clinton, and look in this on your left on that phone, and she doesn't walk by there. Look at the guy there with the blue person on the screen. There is nobody in blue in front of him, anywhere near him. This is like a blue screen behind them, and this is pasted in. She's doing this in some kind of a studio. There are no people there because she's so sick she can't handle the stress of actually having a crowd of people.
New footage shows Hillary Clinton's mysterious handler emerging from a tent with Hillary moments before she went on stage in Ohio and had a 4-minute coughing fit. He also came to Hillary's aid immediately after she had another coughing fit while talking to journalists on the campaign plane. He was also seen in this infamous picture helping Hillary up the stairs, as well as this image appearing concerned over Hillary's gaunt and colourless appearance. He's obviously part of Hillary's inner circle. Ever since he appeared to calm Hillary when she was confronted by protesters, everyone has been asking, who is this guy?
Are you okay? Keep talking.
Wasn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
After the controversy went viral, the Clinton campaign claimed he was a Secret Service agent. But experts have commented that a Secret Service agent would not physically touch Hillary unless her life was in imminent danger.
He seems to be playing a very personal role. He appears when she seems to be in trouble, either with the coughing or with some health issue, or in that case, her own personal reaction to what was a heckler at that point. So it's troubling because you've got a man who's also doing something that the Secret Service wouldn't do. He's very physical with her.
Yeah, touching.
He touches her. He has his arm around her. You saw what the Secret Service there in that clip were doing on the side. They stand next to her. No one went up to touch her, and that's what he seems to always be doing.
A retired Secret Service source told True News that the man in question is Secret Service agent Todd Madison. Secret Service spokeswoman Nicole Maynor confirmed that the man pictured is the Secret Service detail leader for Hillary Clinton. Quote, the Secret Service doesn't have handlers, but agents are trained in emergency trauma care and will at times bring in contractors to fill specific medical needs. So does Madison's unorthodox and unusual physicality with Clinton indicate that he has been assigned as her primary medical carer due to her ill health? Why is he verbally coaching her when she becomes flustered? Why is he with her right before or after she has her coughing fits? The questions will continue.
Is that what happened? She got dehydrated?
Yeah.
Because when you look at that collapse, that video that was taken, you wonder if it's not more serious.
No,
than dehydration.
She's been, well, if it is, it's a mystery to me and all of her doctors, because it's frequently, not frequently, nothing, rarely, but on more than one occasion over the last many, many years, the same sort of things happened to her when she just got severely dehydrated. And she's worked like a demon, as you know, as Secretary of State and as a senator and in the years since.
Hillary Clinton now have a personal fortune of $120 million. And this came from paying them $250,000 to give speeches, big banks, military security complex, the powerful kinds of interest groups who control the laws and the regulations. They own the Clintons. We also see that the Clinton Foundation has $1.6 billion. The Clintons present a known, bought and paid for servant of the ruling oligarchy. They know that they own her, that she is subservient to the ruling oligarchy and will not do anything that the oligarchy doesn't tell her to do. But Trump, you see, came up from the outside. And so they don't know what he might do. I mean, I think that he would have a hard time staffing a government that would serve him because he doesn't know who those people are. And if he were to be elected, the first thing he would hear is, well, now you got to form a government. You're elected. The government starts. You won't be ready. You got to have a government. Here's a list. Put all these people in. And then they'll end up controlling Trump through the people they staff his government with.
Suddenly Donald Trump, this vacuous, demagogic man who just comes out with stock phrases about everything without any substance, without any explanation of how these things are going to be brought about. This man who plays on people's fears, somehow this man is going to take on what they call the globalists. And as a result of that, the narrative has changed in these parts of the alternative media from you can't trust any of them, it's all a rigged system, to actually it is rigged but against Trump in favor of Clinton. What I see is some areas of the alternative media becoming little more than an alternative Fox News, who are pushing this man promoting himself as the man who's going to make America great again. What does that mean, Donald? We never hear that. He's actually, in many ways, dictated the way that these parts of the alternative media are reporting things. It's not the way anything's going to change, because what they're doing is becoming that which they've claimed to be exposing. They're becoming the polarity. They're becoming the means for divide and rule instead of bringing people together. The idea that he is someone who is not part of the establishment. I mean, please, you become a billionaire in real estate and casinos and all these things without being part of the establishment. You depend on the banking system to do what you do, and you're not part of the establishment. Do we really believe that if the Republican establishment didn't want Trump, that he would have gone through that entire process and come out as the nomination. I mean, it's ridiculous. How does that square with Donald Trump being this man on the white horse who's coming in to challenge the establishment? How does it square talking about Edward Snowden in terms of not only is he a bad man for revealing these things that the public need to know about surveillance and the NSA, but words to the effect of, and basically execution is still legal. This is a man who's challenging the establishment. His foreign policy for, quote, ISIS, what was his words, basically bomb the shit out of them. This is a man that parts of the alternative media are pushing for president on the basis that this is going to be transformative and stop the expansion of this new world order global state. It's ridiculous. It's fundamental to how we get out of this mess, not by finding solutions to the problems, but by removing the cause of the problem. You know, if the cause of the problem is divide and rule, then removing the cause is to come together and to see each other in a different light.
este video sorprendente de una esfera que persigue a un vehículo. En Tercer Milenio ya le hemos presentado casos de esferas luminosas que se acercan persiguiendo autos y trenes. Y ahora surgió este video que está causando conmoción en los medios de Rusia, cuando una esfera luminosa persiguió a una camioneta que circulaba en la cantera de la ciudad de Kokshetau, en Kazajstán. La esfera se acerca y aleja del vehículo, viajando en el aire a la misma velocidad.
Everywhere, anytime, even 3 seconds, 2 seconds, while you're walking, while you're having coffee and tea, while you're having meeting, so you can meditate. Many people has a little bit misunderstanding about meditation. They think meditation meaning think of nothing, concentrate. So push too much. So we cannot block thought and emotion. In fact, we need thought and emotion. So whether you listen to your monkey mind or not, that's the issue. What I call monkey mind is chatting, pala 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 yada yada. So monkey mind is giving your opinion. So whether you listen to opinion or not, it's up to you, right? So through meditation, what we do is we have to make friends with the monkey mind. But how to make friends? Just giving banana doesn't work, So right method is you need to give job to monkey mind. How to give job monkey mind? So the simple meditation technique is be aware of the breath. So you ask monkey mind, hello, what's breath? So monkey mind says, yeah, good idea. And be aware of breath. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in. There's a lot of thought comes at the background. Don't care, no problem. So as long as if you're not forget your breath, anything is okay. No need too much concentration. Just simply be aware of your breath. Breathe in, out, in. Therefore, we can meditate everywhere, anytime.
Meditation does is it teaches you to let go of the data stream that defines your reality. Okay, each of us have a data stream, and that data defines our reality. We interpret that data to be this reality. When you've let go of this reality entirely, you're no longer in it. So when you let go of that data stream entirely, you're no longer in this reality.
because it's the data stream that defines the reality. So that's the first thing. It's just a data stream. Meditation, you let it go. That's point consciousness. You get to a point of consciousness where you are just that point of consciousness floating in the void. You see nothing, hear nothing, feel nothing. You're just a point of consciousness floating in the void. That's point consciousness. And at that point, you're no longer receiving, interpreting the data stream for this physical reality, this virtual, quote unquote, physical reality. There is much more than just this reality that you can connect to, so go connect to other realities that are also productive for your growth. You already do that naturally, called the dream reality. That's a different reality frame, a different data stream, and that's productive. We work out a lot of issues in our dreams. Every virtual reality has its own clock. Okay, your dream reality doesn't work on the same clock of your waking reality, right? They're totally different. Now you can go to other reality frames, and time passed there doesn't have to equal time passed here. They're all different. So this is a very practical space to work in. You get clarity and preciseness that you couldn't get in this reality, because you've got all this other data coming in, and now you're trying to sort this little thread of data with all the other data, and it's difficult. It's like trying to do your homework in a room full of 20 people all having conversations. It's harder. If you get to that other reality frame where you're only focused on this one issue, and it's very clear, and if you can precisely ask your questions and present what you want to do and how you want to do it, you can find that you can do things in minutes that would take you days and weeks and maybe couldn't do at all any other place. So it's a very productive space to be in. Within that different reality, there's lots of things that you might do. Depends on what data stream you want to attach to. Well, how do you attach to a data stream? You use your intent, your intention to do things, your intention to understand things, your intention to cause things to happen or not to happen. Those are the things that will connect you to data streams that will fulfill that intention, you see? So it's your intent that lets you connect and disconnect from data streams. You intend to disconnect from this one, that's called meditation. And you disconnect, and then you intend to connect to a different one, and now you're in a different reality frame. Now you could call that reality frame out of body, or you could call it out of mind, or you could call it out of the physical universe, or you could call it just switching the data stream. And you don't have to make it exotic and quirky and woo-woo like out-of-body experiences and flying in around in other reality frames. You can say all those things, and that's a way, those are metaphors of describing it, but all that's unnecessary. Now, let's say what you want to do is gather information about some subject. Well, that's your intent. You can connect to sources of information that have that information you want. Different data stream. Let's say you want to do analysis on yourself. Let's say you want to find out what are my fears? What kind of trouble does my ego get me into? You know, do I have fears? Do I have ego? And if so, what are they? I want to understand other people, or my interaction with other people, or how I could be a better employee, or a better husband, or a better wife, or whatever. You know, these are things you can do in that state because you're no longer processing in this physical reality. You can deal with 100% of your attention on these other subjects.